two, three. How's everybody doing? It's your boy Jermaine from Hognose Hogs back with another interview. And today we got Fathom Hogs back on the channel. We have Jon Rice as well as AJ. So before we get things started, I want them to briefly introduce themselves for those who may be unfamiliar with them. We'll start with Jon.
Hi, my name is Jon Rice. I'm one of the originators with Fathom Hogs. Mitch Davey and myself started this business, I would say probably 7, 8 years ago. Yeah, that's a brief rundown about me right there.
I'm AJ. I kind of run the daily stuff for Jon up here in Ohio, and just kind of take care of everything that needs to be done for the business.
Okay. And so for this video, I mainly want to talk about the business side of breeding hognose snakes, and then we can transition on what we can see the hognose snakes going in the future and talk about some cool morphs that have just come out or haven't been released. So the first question I want is for somebody that's brand new to hognose snakes and they maybe got their first pair and they're really thinking about breeding compared to just keeping them as like a hobby. So what are some of the like upfront costs associated with starting out breeding hognose snakes? And for example, like the racks, the bedding, the mice, things like that, especially when you first started out, Jon.
When I first started out, I think a rack is something that a lot of people don't think about when they first start. I've seen some keepers be successful with just keeping hognose snakes in Rubbermaid containers on a shelf. But if you want to have consistent results, a rack is one of the best things that you can invest in. For me, my initial first racks, I got some vision racks that held the 32 quart and 15 quart tubs from Target. I want to say they're the 1565 and 1566 tubs. They're the ones with purple handles from Target, but probably the best investment for myself just starting out. A while ago, I want to say they were like $350 for a rack, and I think that's probably the most important thing that someone can get if they're thinking about breeding hognose snakes. As far as bedding goes, aspen. If you can make sure you get aspen bedding, I use Sani chips, the coarse Sani chips. Getting your bedding locked in that really works well for you, I think is very, very beneficial as well.
Okay. And what about like mice? What you feed them? That's also important. Where do you get your mice?
Yeah, getting mice. I think it's important to get them from a very good source. I've had a lot of success from Perfect Prey out of Florida. They put a really good product together. Big Cheese out of Texas. They put a real nice mouse out as well. It's really economical. Perfect Prey can be a little bit more expensive than the average mouse, but their quality is there. And I think that's a very important thing to put into consideration when you're thinking about breeding and taking care of these animals. You can get mice for really cheap from a bunch of different vendors, but if you're gonna be breeding and want your snakes to be healthy, you need to make sure that you get them from a good source. I mean, I think that's a very important thing. If Jermaine, we were to eat, McDonald's every day for the rest of our life, could we survive? Yeah, but we're probably not going to be as healthy as we would if we took care of our bodies and ate the right food. So Big Cheese has worked great for me. They come vacuum sealed on some trays. Then I've currently been working with Lane Labs as well. They put out a really good mouse. They're consistent in size. The quality of their feeders is through the roof, in my opinion.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Like, I've seen some rodents where you get hoppers and small mice and things like that, and there can be a lot of variation in size, but Lane Labs has got it down. They're very consistent rodents for sure.
Okay. And so The good thing about rodents are they're pretty easy to get. Like those companies that you mentioned, you can just order them offline and they'll be at your doorstep in a few days. But going back to the bedding, that can be a little bit more difficult to find. I've had like a lot of people ask me, where do I get my bedding from? I use the same thing that you use, the sandy chips, the coarse grain. And luckily, I live in Florida, so there's like a Replicon almost every month, and that's where I usually get my bedding from. But other than that, I find that that product is kind of hard to come by. So where in particular do you order your bedding?
Well, fortunately enough, I built a great relationship with our local feed store here. And I think if you're going to look into breeding snakes and having consistency there, you need to start reaching out at your local partners to be able to get these products. So that, course Sandy chips, they're from PJ Murphy most of the time. Um, they put out a wonderful product, but like you said, the supply where you can get them it can be difficult sometimes. And I've built, like I said, a great relationship with my local feed store over the past, I don't know, I've been going there for probably 30 years, literally, since I was a little kid going in and out of there to get feeders for my snakes. And they were able to source it for me. So I get it in usually by about a half pallet at a time. I probably get between 20 and 30 bags at a time. And it usually lasts me a couple weeks. I think that's probably the most important thing that you can do. Reach out, think outside the box with that. Like you can find them online and things like that, but think about your feed stores that are local to you that may be able to get that stuff in at a little bit more volume and be able to, instead of just getting 1 or 2 bags, you might have to get 10, but you won't run out that way. And how I do it with them is, I go over with my truck and we pick up the whole pallet, and he just knows to order another pallet of them as soon as I pick them up, because it usually takes 7 to 10 days for him to get those in. And yeah, that's how I do it.
Okay. And so I have a question for you, AJ. Since you're doing a lot of the feedings of the babies, and we talked on Discord privately about a new rack system that you're getting, and so you've have experience with a few different type of racks that Jon has purchased. And so, what are some of the things you will look for into getting a rack, just from your experience on feeding like babies, which can be difficult to feed, especially if you frighten.
Uh-huh. I think if you're talking about a hatchling rack in particular, I think what's the rack that you have?
Which
With the
one?
little drawers, the very small
The little drawers. That's from PM Herps. PM Herps does a little. I don't even know what the tub is called, but I would say it's probably like a 1 quart.
Okay.
Would you
Yeah,
think it's about
very
like that?
small.
Yeah, it's like a 1 quart
I mean, it's
tub.
probably about that big, by maybe that. I don't know if you can see that kind of. It's probably about that big by about that deep. They're pretty common with the breeders. Having them feel secure, especially with feeding and stuff like that. If you're going to put them in very large containers right off the rip, a lot of the times I've experienced them kind of being hold offish, or they want to get comfortable to that new environment. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I don't know. In a rack system, I would say that as far as hatchlings that are on the market are concerned, that's what you're looking to get. Having said that, Jon and me have been talking to someone and getting custom racks built, because nobody in the U.S. has been able to manufacture them for years and years, even though breeders have been asking, that fit the FB5s that are going to be, I think, one of the best colubrid racks on the market. And
100%.
we're going to import them in a serious quantity as well. It'll be really nice.
Yeah, if anyone's had experience, after you go from that hatchling tub and you get, which AJ was talking about, I like to get them up into a bigger tub as soon as possible. A shoebox works great, a 6-quart tub from Walmart. That's a wonderful, wonderful tub to start out small hognose snakes with, but they grow pretty quick.
Yeah.
I don't know with your experience, Jermaine, but I mean, they once they get 10 meals underneath their belt, they can kind of go up into that large pink, small fuzzy size, and they can really start growing. So having that space is very important for them to be able to stretch out and grow a little bit. You don't want to go too big. Like you wouldn't want to go into like a 10 series tubs from Freedom Breeder or anything like that, or ARS. But just having that nice size, and AJ was just talking about, we do have those FB5s, which I want to say a few people here make PVC racks that can accommodate those FB5 size tubs. But having a commercial hatchling rack has been a little bit tough. So we reached out to Alu Racks. I want to say Germany.
Yeah, Germany, I believe.
Yeah, I think he's out of Germany. His name's Kim, but he put together a prototype to just see how his style of rack can actually hold these tubs, and man, it's wonderful. So it's going to be just like a Freedom Breeder style. The tubs are a little bit more narrow than a 6-quart, but longer, and they're about 5 inches tall. So they're going to be a wonderful rack for raising up some hognose snakes in for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and the rack holds 90 tubs. So I mean, if you're looking at breeding these guys, that's not commercial breeding with just a 90 tub. I mean, Jermaine, you've seen it. If you have 4 females, you can get pretty close to 90 babies pretty quickly off those. But just having the space for the rack, and it's going to be awesome. So
definitely a kind of aluminum frame is a pretty big deal for me too. Is a new breeder, a new keeper on the market is something that I value a lot, simply just for cleaning and ease of use.
Yeah. And to kind of add on to that, just from my experience, I also think it'd be a good idea to buy a rack where you can put multiple size containers in. So maybe like a 6-quart, a 15-quart, a 32-quart. So you can kind of move your snakes up as they grow without having to buy like a separate rack. And another thing me and AJ were talking about, I was asking him about a particular rack that you used to have, is how well they slide out, because you can scare a hognose if it doesn't slide out nice and smooth, and then you just kind of gonna have to wait till the next time to feed that snake because now it's in flight mode.
yeah.
That new rack that you'd been talking about that we spoke with on the chat rooms or whatnot, Discord, is, I don't know, I think it's great for new people, the pack racks, just because it gives you the freedom. It's totally modular, you can move up. You can have your couple large breeding females and then all your hatchlings under them. And when it's time for you to scale down for the year, you can take all those out and reduce the size of it and go back to a smaller load on you. I don't know. I just think that's a really awesome feature to add to racks, especially for cleaning and everything like that. It's really good product.
Yeah, having those pack racks, it's going to be interesting. We ordered ours a few weeks ago. They should be coming here shortly, but it'll be interesting. We're demoing that rack and seeing how it does for us, and it'll be very interesting just to see how it works. And we're looking forward. He said he was going to be down in Daytona here in the next couple of weeks, so we're looking forward to talking to him in person, seeing what the future of those racks are, when we can get some more tubs and potentially some more racks. So
he's going to have a prototype with all of his sizes of tubs that he's going to have available eventually also. So if any of you are going to Daytona, I highly recommend checking it out.
Yep.
Okay. So now segmenting on to the next question for you, Jon. At what point do you think that you should transition from having breeding hognose snakes as a hobby to a business? Or when did you come to that conclusion that, okay, I actually want to start this as a business?
I mean, so that's kind of a tough question. I always wanted to do it. It's something that I was always passionate about, is breeding snakes, and hognose snakes in particular. I love all snakes though. It's, if you've ever talked to me on the phone, or if anyone out there's ever talked to me on the phone, I just like talking about the genetics and everything. When it transitioned over into a business from a hobby, I think it'll always be a hybrid for me, because it'll always be a hobby. I'm always looking for something new to work with, new species and things like that. But I would say after you start producing more than probably 100 babies a year, it really turns into a business at that point in time, because I like to hold back a decent amount of females and males for projects later on. But when you can have 100 snakes for sale a year, that turns into a business at that point in my eyes. But yeah, I mean that's kind of a tough question, Jermaine. It's I'll always be passionate. I think that's what's been different for me. I think some people come in and they look at the perspective of how much money I can make, and I think that kind of is a negative way, because you've seen it, you felt it. It's not about the money, for it's still, I enjoy hatching all the snakes, even the normal ones that have neat colors and things like that. They're just as special to me as the one of a kind animals. So it, that's a tough question for sure.
Okay. So you mentioned some of the things that keep you going. Is there any other things that keep you from burning out? Because it can kind of get overwhelming, especially once you're producing hundreds of animals every year.
Yeah, I mean, AJ's been an incredible help. I think to keep from getting burnout, honestly, the reptile building is my safe place. It's something that, when I'm having a rough day, that's where I can go to decompress and just open drawers and look at baby hognose snakes and big hognose snakes and the ones that are coming up. But to keep from getting burnout, I would say just have, if you're producing more than you can take care of by yourself, make sure you either hire somebody or just have some type of assistance there, just in some way, shape, or form. Look in streamlining your process. Cleaning tubs. Cleaning tubs can be, a monotonous task when you have, hundreds of animals. So I thought outside the box there, and I actually do dishwashers. Literal dishwashers. I just got them all lined up in a row. I've got a row of 4 of them, and that can take some workload off. From just getting burnt out from just washing tubs. You can fill them up, hit start, walk away, go be with your family, go do whatever else you need to do. So I think just from an operational standpoint, finding where you can streamline your process to be more efficient. I think that's important, and not getting burnt out
at every step.
Yeah. And so you've been in this industry for a number of years, and I'm sure you've seen people come and go. Um, how long do you think the average person stays into this hobby once they first start out?
Well, I would say 2 to 3 years. And that's people coming in looking at it just from the monetary perspective. I feel like if you have passion for the animals, I think you'll always be around at some capacity. So it doesn't mean that you have to treat it like a business. You could still keep it as a very small hobby, upwards of 10 animals or something like that you can have fun with. I think 2 to 3 years, honestly, is it weeds out those people that are in it for the wrong reasons. Some things that happen, they could have an animal die. They could have poor breeding success, so they don't see the point of moving forward. I think that's one of the biggest frustrations for a lot of people is they want that instant gratification.
Yeah.
And so they go in the search for adult animals, to breed and things like that. And that can be tough sometimes. When you try to take adult animals from one person's collection, bring them over to yours, they have to learn everything new. The temperature inside the room may be different. The humidity inside the room may be different. It makes it really tough. So I think that's why it's very important, if you want to have good, consistent breeding results, start with babies. I think that is very important. Babies or like 6 to 8 month year old animals. definitely breeder animals. Just you can get some success, but it usually only happens. It's very spotty. If you raise them inside of your collection the way that you keep them, you can have much better success long term.
I
Yeah,
think
that's a you
setting
go
things
ahead.
well. I see a lot of people because I take care of all the sales for us, and there's a number of people that kind of will try and spend all of the money that they have in their bank account to buy these nice animals, and I try and give them other options that they could look at and stuff like that, just because I think that if you put too much money into the hobby at one time, you can set yourself up for failure if they don't reproduce the year you're expecting them to reproduce, or something like that were to happen. And that can really pull you, or I've seen it, like kind of pull people away from the hobby because they get so discouraged, you know, because things aren't working out as well as they planned for. And I think we all have to remember that these are animals, and there's a lot of variables to take into account.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
people can get frustrated very easy. These hognose snakes are, such an interesting species. They're very rewarding on all ends. The difficulty, there is some difficulty with getting them going. It's tough every year. You'll have one clutch of animals that will eat, unscented meals, every single one from the get go. And then you'll have another clutch from another set of animals that nobody wants to eat for, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. You just got to keep on plugging away with them and try different scents and things that may work for them to get them going. And it's very interesting how it's by clutch. It's not just a single animal or things like that, but it's by clutch. And so that can be discouraging to some people as well, in my opinion.
And to piggyback off that, I would say if I can get 700 to 1,000 animals eating, I guarantee any one of you out there can get your animal eating.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
will not try not to stress too much. If you get it from somebody and it doesn't eat the first week, it will be okay. It will work itself out.
Yes. Yes. 100%. I think that's one of the big misconceptions is people will get a hognose snake from someone, and they're concerned it doesn't eat that first week. I've had numerous calls and inquiries on Instagram, about how do I get my hognose snake to eat, and I'll ask them how long have they had it. They're like, well, 2 weeks and it hasn't eaten once. I'm like, man, come back to me and talk to me in 10 weeks. That's it just needs some time to settle in and get comfortable for sure.
Yeah, and I think those are great points, especially why somebody should start with a baby hog nose because it gives you time, it gives you a few years to actually learn how to care for these animals and experience picky eaters or when they go on food strikes. I would hate for somebody that has um, never had this species of snake get a bunch of adults and produce maybe 3 or 4 clutches. And then now you have all these baby hognose snakes and half of them may not eat. And now that's really going to discourage you from continuing because you don't really have the experience on raising baby snakes. So
Yeah.
definitely, I recommend, like you said, maybe one subadult female, which is kind of what I did. So I had her as an adult. She was my first adult, so I only had one clutch of eggs my first year to deal with, and so I kind of learned how to raise baby snakes, but just dealing with one clutch, which was really manageable. And so now the next females that are coming of age, I have more experience and I kind of know how to get them going. But if I would have started out with a bunch of adults and just hatched out a bunch of eggs my first year, I probably would have quit, especially if I would have had a bunch of them not eating.
Yeah, and I got to congratulate you. You just made a Mai Tai, didn't you?
No, I bought that one.
Oh, did you? Oh man, I made that. All right.
Yeah,
I was like, oh man, I was hoping you made yourself a Mai Tai. But well, hey, congratulations on the Mai Tai. I think it's a wonderful genetic combination. I think it's behind. There should have been a lot more people messing with those now, and it's a beautiful color combination for sure. One of my favorites. I'm kind of partial to them. So.
especially the Arctic. You produced the Arctic Super Conda Mai Tai. That's probably my favorite one that you've produced this year that you've shown. I was like, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's I produce a couple of them, and they're really cool snakes. Just the richness that the Arctic brings to it is it's incredible. It's like a burnt orange,
Yeah.
and it's really cool snakes.
All right. And so you're kind of at a unique position yourself and Mitch because you produce a lot of new stuff, new morph combinations, or you'll have like I guess snakes with different combinations of genes that nobody really puts on the market. So what is your strategy on pricing your animals? How do you set a price?
That's a tough one. I always look at what the base morph costs. So let's say with Sable, is base morph for Sable, they're probably between $800 and $1,400, for a Sable, depending on what degree of Sable it is and the cleanliness of it. And so then as you get to the multi-gene animals, you gotta just price them accordingly on that, and the
Yeah.
scarcity of the animals. I try to look at how many are being produced each year, what the cadence for that is. There was an interesting thing that's happened over the last 2 years with hognose snakes. They've actually appreciated in value, I feel like. So um, supply versus demand is very important. But just looking at the base morphs and how rare, coral in particular. Coral's been around, lavender and albino has been around since they've been, it's been probably 15 years, both those genes. But that's a tough snake to hit. I for some reason lavender and albino just don't sit together very well when you breed them. There's been lots of them been made, but it's still relatively rare color mutation. I think sunburst is probably at least 5 times more common than coral.
I would think
And
so.
yeah, just the scarcity of the
Right.
yeah, availability wise, that definitely sets the price point for these animals. Sometimes we're shooting blind.
Yeah.
We really are. We produced a well, we don't know yet, but we produced something new this year. That possibly a new color morph. So it'll be something that we just kind of see how it plays out and how the gene mixes with other genes, and we'll just see where that price point lands. Yeah.
I think for some of the more expensive morphs too, you kind of have to take into account that it's not really the general public that are buying these animals. They're investments essentially. If you get down to it, as much as we all love animals, and put animals before them, and the breeders that would be buying this, I think that we have to take the return that you're going to get off of pairing of these animals into account. Which some of the prices can look a little high and a little intimidating. I think to people that aren't, I don't know, too current or don't operate at that level, and it's the capabilities can be higher than some of any investments I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Not even talking about the reptile scene, and I think that is a big thing in some of the cutting edge animals, thinking what they can do.
Okay. And how do you determine which animals to release to the public?
Well, uh, I pretty much release everything. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're talking about holdbacks, um, that's a tough one because I put holdback on a lot of things. But the scarcity of the gene for sure. I like to hold back a decent amount of animals. I think one of the problems I think as a lot of early breeders have found is that they'll produce, let's say you breed a sable to an exanthic and you want to go for storm clouds. So they'll make 10 eggs, let's say it's a 50-50 split. They say, well, I'm going to keep back one male and two females to be able to, make storm clouds in the future and sell the rest of the animals. Well, man, that's a very, very delicate thing to do because one male what if he doesn't breed well? What if he dies? What if he what if he gets eaten by another or by a female when you introduce them? I think making sure you hold back. I honestly like 2.3, 3.3 for a project to try and keep that project moving forward. That's what I do as far as determining what to hold back. That's pretty much where I stick. Now I also go after things that I like. I think a lot of people shouldn't listen to what the market is asking. Go for what you really enjoy. One of the things that I am stupid far behind on, just because it's just not my thing. It's snows. I've made like 2 snows in my life, and there's been lots of people that have been breeding snows for years, but it's just not my thing. I like darker snakes. I like snakes with a lot of pigment inside of them. Same thing with Lucy. I've got Lucy's. I'm going to continue to breed Lucy's, but it's just not my thing. So I didn't focus on it. That's why I went with my 2 favorite color mutations are Super Arctic and Sable, separate and together. I think both of them are just wonderful, wonderful genes. Jeff Galewood made the Arctics years ago, and those Super Arctics, I remember seeing those for the first time. I had to have them. Like just a black and white zebra looking snake. They're incredible. And then on the opposite end, the Sable. My first sables I got from EB years ago, were the original Montana locale sables. Those things are almost solid black. I just love snakes like that. I think that's those are my favorite color mutations. And then just playing with them with mixing in the Super Arctic and the Sable, and Mai Tai has really surprised me as well. You spoke about it earlier, just what the Arctic gene does to the Mai Tai. It's just been incredible. The future's bright for these guys. Like there's so many things that haven't been done. There's new snakes that come out every year or two, some new color combinations or new color morphs in particular. And we just need some more time to unlock all these things and make the new color mutations. So
Okay. And so now I want to segment into a topic that I don't think a lot of people talk about. Not enough people talk about it, but I think hearing these stories will help somebody that's new to the hobby, or even somebody that's more experienced that's going through a tough time. So, kind of give us some stories of what are some of your biggest losses while breeding hognose snakes.
I said one to AJ before he came down. He's like, "Man, you know, this is going to be an interesting question." And I said, "Oh yeah, I got a great story for this one." I made the Arctic Honda Sunburst. I was the first one to make those. We called them the Red Rockets, but I mean, I guess if you were to look at an animal from a financial standpoint and moving forward, I love those animals, and they were just beautiful. But the first one that I made, it was a male, and I think I made 2 that year. Yeah, I think I made 2 that year. One was a female, one was a male, and kept him for a year and a half or so, feeding him, got him to adult size, put everybody down for brumation that year, and he was out of 400 snakes, he was the only one that died during brumation. So that was a big hit to me. It was terrible, but that was tough for me. Now, other financial losses, I would say racks. Just I always want to change my racks to a new and better rack. So I'll spend $2, $3, $4,000 on racks, and then I just want to upgrade to the next one. So I pretty much just sell them to my friends for next to nothing or give them away. So that's probably my other biggest financial losses right there.
Okay. What about you, AJ? I know you're kind of new to breeding. Have you experienced any like losses, or just something that just brought you down and made you question if you wanted to even do this anymore?
Right. I think at the root of it, it gets back to like why people are interested in this kind of stuff, right? I wouldn't say that I've had any financial losses necessarily. We have lost animals, you know. I'll tell you, or I'll briefly go over a little story, right? When I first started working for Jon, I came over and I have this really big Colombian rainbow boa. It's leucistic, and I was just really concerned about her, man. And I called Jon, and I'm not even gonna lie, man, I was like bawling my eyes out. I was so sad and upset. You know, I thought that she was really sick, man. And I brought her over, and I was very upset. I mean, I know
Extremely upset.
Jon knew that I was, and he just reassured me, man. I came over, and she was totally fine, you know. And I was just being up in my head, which I think a lot of reptile owners can be, you know. And for me, it's more the emotional losses on stuff like that. And as far as like just being a kid and, you know, having reptiles and having lost them, and the feelings associated with that, like
Yeah,
my losses.
yeah. To speak on that a little bit farther too, like AJ said, he called me and he was just so concerned for his snake, and he brought her over and he was worried about some pink, right?
She's a leucistic.
She's a leucistic Colombian rainbow boa, and probably one of the biggest Colombian rainbow boas I've ever seen in my life. She's huge. She actually eats like large rats.
She's very large.
She's huge. But he brought her over and he pulls out this magnificent Colombian rainbow boa that's just getting ready to shed. And but I could see the emotion on his face. He was pointing some things out, and I assured him that it was just getting ready to shed, and she has been doing great still to this day.
And, you know, I've had her for maybe 6 years, you know, and I just caught her at that one moment in between shed that just presents a little pink to me, and I don't know, it really got to me, man. It really did.
Okay. So I can give some advice for somebody that what you're gonna go through some type of loss,
Yep.
breeding any animal. I think the best thing to do is don't make like a rash decision. So whether you lose a snake, you lose eggs in an incubator due to a malfunction, the best thing to do is just keep going. Don't quit,
Yeah.
because eventually you're gonna get over it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and it happens to everybody. Every hog nose breeder, you're gonna lose a snake. You may lose some eggs. You may lose a snake due to egg binding. They'll lay infertile clutches. But with any business, you just the people that are successful are the ones that keep going and the ones that learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, 100%, Jermaine. Like every year I learn something. Every year. You know, there's a lot of people that, you know, come to me and they're like, you know, you're just so great at doing this. And I'm like, man, I've fallen down a lot. You know, I've fallen down a lot, you know. All right, to go back to the financial mistakes, this wasn't really a financial mistake, but it impacted one of my years drastically. It was probably my second year of breeding hognose snakes, and I throw my entire collection into brumation every year. Everybody, babies, adults, everything. I really think it does a good thing for the babies. It gives them time to restart during brumation. You know, if you have some that are tricky feeders throughout the year that maybe only eat scented or things like that, sometimes they come straight out of brumation ready to eat. You know, unscented everything. It's really interesting how it works. Well, during brumation, I'll go and check on them. I try not to disturb them. I keep them in, you know, keep them in the dark, and I try to let it get down to about 40. I like 40 degrees. I know a lot of people think that's a little cold. They try to keep it at like 50 to 60. I like 40 degrees. It just works well for me. So I go down and I check on them about 3 times to you know, change their water bowls. That, you know, since I'm brumating the entire room, I can keep them in their own cages. Well, I came down, changed out some water bowls, you know, the first time, and then I was like 2/3 the way through brumation, was going down to change out the water bowls again, and I opened out the male rack, and the male snake came out at me with his mouth open, and he should be moving in like slow motion. It's 40 degrees down there, and he came out like it was middle of summer. Well, I'd left my thermostat on the entire time during brumation. So he was sitting on that 85 degrees down there in the bottom, just sitting there. the entirety of brumation. Well, needless to say, that year I think I bred I want to say like 12 females that year. Like I said, I was still in the beginning of my hognose snake career, and I think I got like 3 fertile eggs out of everybody. And it was just because those guys were sitting on that heat the entire time and just roasted any live sperm that could have been possibly in those males. And that was an important lesson that year, that I make sure I need to go and unplug all thermostats. That's checklist. That's number one on the checklist before brumation, and just let everybody get nice and cold.
So like emotionally, like how did you feel after only producing 3 fertile eggs? Like did you feel like quitting, or did you kind of know, okay, this is a lesson learned, I'm going to do better next year?
that it was exactly it, Jermaine. It was a lesson learned. So what I did that year is I focused on husbandry. I was like, all right, I made this mistake. I'm going to learn from it. I got a lot of infertile eggs. I got a couple hundred infertile eggs that year, and it was just a learning experience for sure. I did not want to give up in any way, shape, or form, though. It was just one of them aha moments where it's like, well, I will not be making that mistake again.
Okay. All right, so let's transition on the future of this industry. So maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I made a video just kind of going over 3 things that I felt like we're going to start seeing more of in these next upcoming years. I said I think more people are going to start focusing on the base colors of their animals. You're going to see more visual 3 recessive gene hognose snakes. And the third thing, I think super Arctic is going to be incorporated in a lot of like double recessive visuals. Like you have the Arctic and super Arctic Mai Tais. I've seen the super Arctic snows and the frosted super Arctics. So in your opinion, what are some of the things that you see that are going to happen in the future?
Well, like you said, Super Arctic's going to probably be in about everything. Um,
Yeah.
One of the things, unfortunately, that Super Conda does is it removes patterns, so you can pretty much just change that base color a little bit. In the future, you said something very interesting, though. I think line breeding is going to become part of the future as well. Lemon Ghost stuff, extreme red stuff, even green line stuff that can kind of be associated with lemon ghost. I think that's going to become very popular, and then mixing those in with the albino gene and sable, every single gene out there. But the future for me, something that I'm most excited about is man, the lab sable stuff, man.
Oh,
I think that stuff is going to be hot over the next few years. I was really impressed with the ones that I made this year and how they've colored up. I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg with some of that combination right there, and then adding more genes into that. Something that I've been working on for the past couple of years was actually storm cloud lavenders, and I think those are going to be incredible. What my goal is to do, storm clouds come out pretty blue as it is, and lavenders, they come in quite a bit of variation. Just with the different base colors that you use. You can have red lavenders, you can have blue lavenders, you can have purple lavenders. I work with a lot of the blue stuff, so I want to try and make a true blue hognose snake, and I'm excited to see kind of what those 3 genes do together. Philippe overseas, he's got those skull faces. I think those will be a very interesting gene to get over here and play around with some of this cool stuff we have over here. Um, the sky's the limit, Jermaine. I mean, ball pythons and corn snakes are where they're at currently, and all those genes are floating around there somewhere in these hognose snakes. We just have to unlock them. So I think with more people coming online, more people breeding these guys, we're going to see newer color mutations come out, and that's exciting to me. I don't get upset about anybody making that new stuff, man. I think it's really cool. Uh, it builds excitement, in the community. If someone produces some brand new color mutation, uh, there's someone that may have made something new recently as well here in the United States, and what's his name? Steve, John Steve, or Steve John, or
St.
something.
John, yeah.
Man, he made a really killer looking snake, man. It's
Yeah,
like
I made a video about that. About
yeah,
that much.
yeah, he I was just so impressed with that animal, and I talked to him an extent about it, about what he should do with it and stuff. And I said, man, at all costs, don't get rid of that snake, man. I was like, I think you've got something special there, and he could really do some wonderful things with it. So, um, the future is bright for hognose snakes, that's for sure.
Yeah, that particular snake, I was asking other people what their thoughts of it was, and people were saying maybe super Arctic frosted, but I've seen some of those people have hatched them out this year, and they don't look like that snake.
No,
Right.
So
no,
I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, I remember Kevin Rhodes, he's the one that told me about his Instagram page, and I saw he only had like 30 followers, and I was just blown away by that whole clutch. And I was like, I reached out to him. I was like, I need to put this on a YouTube video just to give you more exposure and just show people these cool snakes, because seeing stuff like that gets people motivated.
yes,
This is what gets people in the hobby and what keeps people in the hobby.
Yeah.
yeah, no, exactly, and that's why I applaud him. He made some really cool snakes. He's going to be doing that breeding again next year, so hopefully he can replicate it, and maybe it's something new. But there's just so much potential out there. That the gene pool is pretty big here in the United States, so we should see some new stuff popping out. I would say almost yearly, if not every other year, a brand new color mutation. So it's very interesting. Mitch just hatched something very cool out. It came from a lemon ghost het sable times the same, and I don't even know what it is. I mean, it could be a lemon ghost sable, but it's got absent side pattern and all kinds of wacky stuff going on with it. So we'll kind of see what happens there as well. So
All right. And AJ, was there any particular state snake that stood out the most to you this year that hatched out?
This year. Um, well, of course, John's new potential morph, you know, uh, that one is just so gorgeous. But probably the Super Conda Arctic Mai Tai. Stunning
Mhm.
animal, hands down. And I say that because last year my favorite morph, I would have to say, is the Arctic Conda Mai Tai, just because of the rich coppers that come through on it. And the Super Conda version is every bit of that, with a beautiful stripe down it. It's a top-notch animal for sure. And yeah, that one. Uh, Not sure. It's weird because some of my favorites aren't even crazy morphs for other people, because I'm exposed to so much of each morph that I can kind of see differences. So I more have like a favorite of each morph, I guess. Like we produced a lot of sunbursts this year. There's one that really stands out that we're holding back, and it is just such this rich red, deep, contrasty sunburst that
and it's just a normal. I mean,
it
just a normal
right.
sunburst, but I mean, it's just a sunburst.
It's
There's
beautiful.
no other color
Right.
mutations affecting it. It's not Arctic. It's not Conda. But it's this female sunburst that is just a 10.
And I
She
think
is amazing. So
I think that's where you're going to see a lot of these wild colors coming from, is the breeders that are capable of breeding more of a higher end morph, and they can cherry pick their one or two out of all of those that are just in their collection top notch. And the differences that are going to happen there, I think, are what I'm most excited for.
yeah,
Really,
lemon ghost too.
yeah,
I love lemon ghost stuff,
love it.
man.
That's my
I
favorite.
Yeah, you've got some, man. You've got some womas and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
got a new one.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
lemon ghost is, I think, just such an underappreciated morph. And some of them hatch out and people are like, "Ah, that lemon ghost is kind of ugly," but man, I tell you what, they turn into a very special animal when they get bigger. I've got some that are highlighter yellow background with just inked on black banding on them, and they're just absolutely beautiful. Um, I would like to see a lot more things get mixed in with lemon ghost. I think it would just make incredible animals. I know Gail Wood's made some albino lemon ghosts that are almost pure. You know, I'd say they're probably about like 80%. You know, you can always get there. You know, can you get back to 100%? You know, from original line, probably not ever. But you can make yellow animals just like those first gen ones. It just takes time. You keep back your best yellow ones, you breed them together, and now you got ones that are even yellower than those, and you know, just line breeding. So
Okay. And so kind of going back to like the new morph or the weird one that you hatched out, what is the process of proving out a new gene? And how long does that take before you to know, okay, this is recessive or incomplete dominant?
well, unfortunately, it's a female, so that makes it a little bit tougher. With a male, you can breed it to a couple different females to really see what's going on. Um, I would say between if it's a male, you can figure stuff out in probably 3 to 4 years. If it's a female, it's going to take probably 4 to 6 years to really know what's going on with that animal. I'm going to replicate the breeding again this next year and see if I can make another one. But you know, so far that's about the timeline it's going to take, because if it ends up being a recessive gene, you have to make hets and then, you know, potentially breed them back into each other. That's why if there's ever a new color mutation, it's way better if it's a male, just because you can outcross that to a couple females pretty quickly and have half siblings. I hate inbreeding. Line breeding is inbreeding as well, but I hate, you know, keeping the gene pool too close. So that's why, you know, if you've ever talked to me on the phone or anything, I focus on outcrossing everything. So it's gonna be a long road for me with mine, but it's fine. You know, nothing but time, nothing but time.
Okay. And when you the female is ready to breed, would you breed her to a normal male or would you breed her to like a color mutation? Like what would be like the easiest to determine if it's like an actual new gene?
Well, a normal would be good, but I've already got a plan for her, unfortunately. So she popped out just something weird. So I'm gonna make sure she doesn't have any sable influence. So I'm going to actually breed a visual sable to her to just see, you know, if anything comes out like that, just in case sable was floating around in there. She looks way different than any sable, but what I want to do is prove that she's not sable more than anything. So I already have her male picked out for when she's older, and I'm going to be breeding a lab sable head albino since she's a visual albino, and just kind of cross all those buckets with one breeding and just see what's going on.
And then make some incredible project animals.
Yeah, just make some really cool project animals. If it does end up being something new, you know, we'll take time to see, but hopefully it's recessive, but I would like to know if it's incomplete dominant. We'll know that first generation if that's the case. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about trying to cross out some of the genes instead of like breeding it to a normal. But yeah, if you think that it could possibly have sable in it to see, you'll know the first generation if it has sable, if you breed
right.
it to visual sable.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do with that. Because when it first hatched, I said, "Oh man, you know, there was a sable egg in there. You know, I got a sunburst hatching." Now I went back and looked, and there was no, you know, sunburst or even any sable complex eggs laid that week when that clutch came. So then I got closer and looked at it. I said, "Man, that doesn't look like a sunburst head either. It looks completely different." So it came all the way out of the egg and everything, and that's when I knew. I actually called Jeff Galewood all excited at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, "Man, I think I got something new here. I don't know what it is." And I put him on a video call with me, and he's like, "Man, that looks really unique, man." I don't know what it is, but it looks like something new. So yeah, I'll have to get you over some updated pictures of it as it's grown. I mean, that thing it took unscented from the get go and is just smashing food, and it's getting big pretty quick. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what are some of the projects that you're excited about for maybe next year, if you can disclose some?
Oh yeah, I'm an open book when it comes to that stuff. Lab storm clouds. I'm excited for those ones. The Mai Tai stuff. I'm always excited for the Mai Tai stuff and just seeing what's coming out of that. The lab sables. Um, Possibly we'll see what happens. Swiss chocolate stuff. Everything really. I mean, I enjoy all of them. To be honest with you, I really enjoy the sunbursts, seeing all the different sunbursts that pop out. But yeah, that's it. I do have some. I have some original EB line stuff too. Some just normals that I'm going to be incorporating into some of my projects this next year as well. So just some Montana locale animals. That's going to be really fun just to clean up some projects. So
Are those Montana lines, are they usually darker or greenish? I know he produces like a lot of
greenish. Yeah, they got a really interesting look to them. What's interesting about the original Sable stuff too, the Montana locale stuff, is that the eggs would hatch 7 days sooner than all the other just the albino complex or just the more run of the mill Western hognose snake eggs. Now, as we've crossed albino and Arctic and everything else into it, it's kind of leveled out. But the original stuff always hatches about a week before everything else, if they're laid on the same deck. But yeah, that's neat about those. But they're just some neat animals, really green animals. So excited to kind of put that and, like I said, clean up some stuff. One of the things I want to focus on over the next couple of years is taking some of these multi-gene animals. We've produced a few super Arctic superconda sunbursts that are adults now, and I actually want to breed those to normals. I want to breed them to just brand new wild type blood that we can bring in and just strengthen all the genes that are inside of those and use them for future projects. So
I think that's where you differ from a lot of other breeders. Your first year making like a super, I feel like a lot of breeders, would be tempted to just go for the visuals and try and make that money. And Jon's really not interested in that. He wants to make superior, really quality animals for people that are going to be able to produce for years and years down the road.
Yeah, and I just interviewed Kevin Rose, and he collects a lot from the wild, and he was telling me like the good thing about like crossing some of your animals into like wild blood is that those wild animals, if they can grow to adulthood in the wild, then you know that they're strong animals. You know that they're going to be eating well, they're going to be healthy, they're going to be more resistant to disease. So yeah, I think that is a good strategy that probably more people should do, like you say, to strengthen the genes, because as you inbreed, and because like I say, not that many people are bringing in new blood into the hobby, so it's just kind of, I guess, over the years weakening and weakening.
Yep. I think there's some genes, lavender and PPA. They're probably two of the weaker genes in hognose snakes, and I think it's important to do that. Pink pastels for years, they almost had like a spider twitch, like spider ball pythons, where they have the wandering to them. PPA's had that for years, and without crossing, it's went away. But it's still one of the weaker genes along with lavender. And I think outcrossing the crap out of those things is how you strengthen those. And it's already been worked on, and I'm continuing to work on it. It's something that I focus on. I don't breed very many visual lavenders. I don't breed lavender to lavender, but I'll breed lavender to het. just to make sure the lavender gene itself is staying very strong inside of my gene pool. So
Okay. And so to conclude this video, if anybody was interested in purchasing a hog nose from you, where could they go to find what you have available?
we use Morph Market. Morph Market's just a wonderful platform. We usually keep a good variety of snakes available on there. Or they could reach out to me via email, shovelnose82@yahoo.com. Yeah,
Same on the Instagram.
Yeah, same on the Instagram as well. Shovelnose82 on Instagram. So.
And then in the upcoming weeks, I'll be flying out to Pomona, California for the big super show out there. I believe it's the 13th and 14th. We'll have a table, and then I'll be meeting John in Daytona for that show as well, and we'll be vending. We'll have a lot of really, really awesome animals there.
Yeah, well, we should. Daytona in particular, we'll have some of our world's firsts, and snakes that really aren't available. But I like people to be able to see them, and it's different than looking online and seeing a picture of an animal that has all the nice lighting and everything, but to see it in the flesh and watch that animal move around and things, I think it's important. So we'll have some cool stuff. We'll have some very cool stuff out there for people to see.
Okay. And so I appreciate y'all for coming on to my channel, doing this interview. You definitely gave a lot of good information for not only people that are new to the hobby, also experienced breeders as well. I'll leave all your links in the description, your Morph Market page, Instagram. You go by shovelnose82 on most of your platforms, or to look up Fathom Hogs. So don't get it confused with me, Shovel Nose Hog.
Nah, nothing but love, man. Nothing but love. It's all good.
Yeah, but yeah, you and Mitch always have some of the best snakes. Especially if you're really getting into the hobby and you want to look for a snake with a bunch of genetics. You guys just stand out from everybody, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, man.
All right, so I'm gonna conclude this video. If you like the interviews, you like the channel, feel free to subscribe, leave a comment below, and I'll see y'all for the next one. And I now have a Patreon account for those who want to support me even further. Here you will have access to exclusive videos, giveaways, as well as discounts. The link will be in the bottom in the description. And if you purchase Reppy links, feel free to use the discount code ShovelHogs to receive 5% off of all purchases.